Let's see what trouble we can get ourselves into today. This is a service van, fleet vehicle. You got to understand the simple factor with fleet vehicles. You go out to buy rocker panels for pretty much anything. You're running, $200 to $700 a rocker panel. I know that's a really wide variance there, but let's just average it out. $500 a rocker panel, a side of the vehicle, right? So, okay, so you got $1,000 if you got to go both sides. This is a fleet vehicle. It's going to get rode hard, put down wet, and never taken care of properly. There's always something broken on these things. There's always something rotted out. There's always employees hitting shit. These owners are not going to pay $1,000 in parts for repair. You're lucky to get $1,000 for the repair. So how do you do that? Well, this is how we do that. We'll go over here. I've got some flat stock here, some sheet metal. Okay, and I cut all this off of my 4x10 sheet. 22 gauge. I buy a 4x10 sheet of 22 gauge. That's about 26 bucks. I can do several of these vans with that 26 bucks of steel. Let's kind of look here. I've got this whole rocker panel cut loose. I'm gonna have to fabricate that up. I have some hindrances because I've only got X size brake, and to roll that corner around, I use my brake. It's got a gradual enough bit to it. All I got is 30-inch brake, so I end up putting these pieces together in 30-inch increments. Okay, not a big deal. I've got 4 pieces that'll go along here. I'll butt weld where the fresh steel comes together. I'd say I would lap weld over where I splice it in, but I've got it cut from wheel arch to wheel arch. All that's coming out. This whole rocker panel's gone. I got a drill sitting there with a big bit in it. I'm gonna take and get my air chisel out. I'm actually gonna knock on those spot welds, see if I can just knock it loose and move on. Most of the time, the situation you're going to run into, it's rotted out on the inner rocker and you got to replace it with something. I've got 20 gauge to replace the inner rocker with. It's actually scrap we cut off of another project that is in good repair. It's just a custom modification my buddy Jerry's working on. But I got some of that 20 gauge laying around, so that'll work for our inner rocker structure. Do I have any more? No, I don't. If I run out of that, I can go down to 16 gauge if I have to. So the idea is you cut proud of the rust. Get it all gone if you can. Make a good surface to weld to. In door openings, it must be continuously spot welded. On side panels and such, you don't have to have a continuous run. You don't. You can spot weld it every so often. You just can't have too many big gaps in between your spot welds, otherwise it'll flex and pop. So this is the trouble we're getting into today. I started off with a 7-inch grinder and a 36 grit pad to knock all the bodywork out of these rockers. I actually worked this van about a year ago and then wanted to pack and paint. This van since got sold to another customer of mine. It's a father-son relationship, so that makes sense now. And he wants to replace the steel. I'll rough it in with short strand fiberglass, grind it down. I'll pull it as tight as I can, but I'll grind it down so there's a little fiberglass left. And then I will do probably 2 coats of mud over that. This side I can go up to just the body line. I'm good there. The other side I'll have to go, I think, a little higher. I don't know. Maybe not. Nope. I can keep it at that bottom body line that's only about 8 inches up off the lip and paint just that. The nice thing about service vans, the nice thing about fleet vehicles like this is close does count. This gives you a chance to hone skills that you otherwise wouldn't utilize, and utilize equipment with more frequency than just doing restorations and customs, unless of course you're booked up with nothing but that. New shop, not likely. So I'm going to dig into this. I'm going to get this rocker panel steel pulled off of here. I'm going to see how much of the inner rocker structure is gone. I will go about treating it. We primer the inside of the cavity and the inside of the new patch panel with weld-through primer. Get everything seated, screwed in place, clamped in place, weld it, grind down those welds, fiberglass it, grind that down, mud it, get it on into paint. So the goal is by close the shop today at 5:30, I will have the steel in and the bodywork at least roughed in, and this is all going to be done. There's not going to be any hand blocks or anything used for the most part. It's primarily going to be done with grinders and DAs. I will shoot it with a hi-fi sealer to try to stave off the rust a little longer. I've got some repairs, patch panels I put on a year ago. I didn't prime the inside of the cavity or the back of the panel, and I didn't use a really good sealer on the exterior. So quality of materials matters. You don't get it waved in your face on fleet vehicles as if it were someone's personal vehicle, but you want to be mindful of the quality of the materials you use. Alright, my next step will be to clean that up in there. And yes, there's going to be some rusted shit left in there that I can't do anything about. Fleet vehicle, limited time frame, limited budget. I wanted to do just this section, get this section pieced in because it's got some curves and angles and all that shit. Combination of hammer and dolly work, a block, a piece of pipe I used to lay it over, a brake, and a shrinker stretcher. We got this piece right here. I got some gappage that I'm going to have to massage out. And a pretty good run down the door opening. So I cut it back. Got it around the wheel arch good. I gotta pull this back true. We'll knock holes in it with the punch there and along the bottom. Clean up the metal we're welding to and weld through primer everything. Everything else I can do on the vehicle as I tap it around to do what I need. Alright, so we ground down all the steel. Got it as clean as possible, and then we coated everything we couldn't get all cleaned up perfectly with a rust inhibitor. Is it gonna do the trick? No. I mean, this shit's gonna rot out again, but this should give it a year or two. Give it long enough that I'm no longer on the hook. All that really needed to be cut out and replaced, but there we are. Rust inhibitor. I've decided I do like this copper weld through better than the zinc. You can create a contact like down in there without a die grinder, and I didn't use a die grinder. I'll end up burning that paint. But right down in there, it right over the paint, it'll actually create enough contact that it will strike an arc and burn the paint out of my way. You get a little extra hot, it'll burn the paint out and push the impurities out of the weld so you don't have bad inclusions. There'll be a little bit of tapping around to do, a little bit of screwing things down to do, things like that to make this fit primo. But it is a service van. we have to, at this point, balance, time, materials, and effort in versus pay. It's always the juggle. That's always the balance. So, and I'm going to reiterate that a bunch through the course of this job. This is the second one of these vans in the last week I've done. Fuck. The idea is to cut it proud, past the rust, keep the cuts small so you're not fabricating up big chunks. I fabricated up this corner specific to get past all the complex angles. The rest of this rocker's easy shit. It just zip, zip, zip. I get my width, I cut the pieces, I break the lip where it curls over and attaches where the door opening's at, and punch some holes in the bottom for the spot welds, clean shit up, weld through primer it. I can zip the rest up very quickly. This took me start to finish, getting it cut out, piece fabricated, everything cleaned up. Might have taken me an hour. The rest of it I'll pick up time on. The other side I don't believe is rotted out there at all, so it's just zip, zip, zip. I got 2 sections on the driver's side to do, and one of them's old work of mine. So we're gonna look at that old work and see why it failed. See you soon. Now, as they would say, we are cooking with gas. Pretty decent door gap there. Around the corner. Let me show you inside the door. All that can be cleaned up and cleaned out with a little grinding, and then you finger putty some fiberglass in there. Run like hell. When I shoot it, the doors will be open, and I can get all those areas that I welded and did body work. Pardon me, body work on. All right, on to the next section. The straight sections are quick and easy. All right, so I was explaining to you before, this isn't a process video or how-to video. Just kind of check in. This is the redundant work we do. Redundant not in a derogatory sense. Redundant as in we get lots of work like this. And it exposes you to the fabricating tools and things like that to keep things moving. But the shoving came to push, and I had to get shit done. I didn't stop and record. I went ahead and finished the passenger side up, got it welded up, continuous, ground it down, short strand, body filler, and I wound up using chip guard on the bottom section of the rocker like the Fords have on this GMC. Really because I needed the time back. That saves you a lot of body work. You can see the texture, the paint's still wet. See where I cut my line at. I do not have perfection. I have a work van. So I took that text spray up above that body line. We created a hard line there on purpose, and that texture spray let us do that. Here's the other side. I wound up capping it. I didn't get to cut everything out. I wound up laying over and capping. I ground it down. I cut out a bunch of bad rust, and I primered both the inside of this panel and the outside of the panel I covered. I had to buy myself time back. Once the van's clean, it probably will be a better match. It's filthy, okay? I cleaned only where I painted. Dang it. So there. It wasn't in the job description on this one, okay? What was supposed to be about a 20-hour job, we're at 24, 25. I had to buy my time back. It was supposed to leave today at 4:30. It's now 7:30. The owner came by, and I take an 8-inch grinder with a 36 grit sanding pad on a stick-it, and I shape all my fiberglass when it gets just so. It's not doughy. It's just kind of tacky, almost not quite rubbery. It's firm past the rubbery stage, and I shape all with that. Well, you've only got a few moments, literally moments, not minutes. You got to get on it, and I had it right then when the owner came in to check up on the project. He wanted to take it home, obviously. They left before I got that done, but I wasn't gonna, I had the dust mask on, I had the sander going, so they're probably pissed because they thought I was ignoring them. All I was trying to do is catch that fiberglass in the window. That's the best way to do fiberglass, in my opinion. Is catch it in that window when it's still just soft enough, and hit it with 36 grit. So tomorrow morning I'll come in, I'm going to rattle can the ladder racks, clean them up, make them look nice, mount those. I got a couple decals left to strip, new decals to put on, one piece of trim to put back on, and this rod goes out. Now you notice I got the windows, or the doors all open. I disconnected the battery. I disconnect the battery when I weld on something. It's preferable to disconnect the computer. But there you go. This was just a quickie, insy outsy. This is the end of the footage. I'm not going to record putting ladder racks and shit on this, most likely. But that's some of the redundant work that we do that keeps us in proper mental hygiene to fabricate more complex panels, to fabricate things on the cars that do matter what the end result is. Not good enough, but has to be excellent. You got to go through the redundant work to get the amazing work. Crawl before you walk, walk before you run. Wow, made it to the end of the video. Thanks for checking in. Come back on the next one. See what the hell we're up to next time. Subscribe, comment. Find us on over on the old Facebook, Smith Welding Restoration LLC on Facebook. Numbers at the beginning. Have any questions? Call.